Today we're going to be doing something just a little bit different when it comes to pruning time here in Arizona. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here in the middle of January in 2022. This tree that you see here is a Weeping Santa Rosa Plum tree. Now I've talked about this tree once before, and I'm going to go ahead and link the video here. And it has a very, very special place in my heart here on the farm because it was planted for my dad who passed away just before we actually started this YouTube channel. So for the background in that, take a look at that other video. But what we wanted to do today is take our very first pruning of this particular tree because it's a little bit different as far as how we're going to be pruning this. So now this tree was actually purchased and planted about 1 year ago today. So you can see from the growth, it has a tremendous amount of growth on it from this past year, which is not uncommon. It was planted as a bare root tree and basically just had a couple of sticks right up here just to start. Now, when it comes to production, this is a Santa Rosa Plum. They're fantastic plums for us here in Arizona, but that's really not the focus of today. Today, the focus is actually the weeping nature of this tree and the challenges that you're faced when you're dealing with pruning a weeping tree. Now, typically when it comes to a plum tree, I would be opening up the center. We would be dealing with branches that are trying to grow too vertical, but not so much with this one. Now, you do have some vertical branching, but for the most part, it starts out going up and then it will naturally weep down, and that's what you can see here. So where I would normally be taking the center and opening it up, I'm definitely not going to be doing that with this. Second thing when it comes to this particular tree is at some point in time, I would really love to be able to sit underneath this tree for a lot of reasons, personal to me. But I want to make sure that I have plenty of space underneath here, that this can form a true umbrella over somebody that wants to come and sit underneath this tree. Now, before we get started, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the tools that we're going to need in order to get this job done here today. First thing I want to talk about is safety. I always wear gloves, especially around sharp implements. We're pruning a tree today, so obviously that makes sense. Next thing is a pair of safety glasses. Doesn't matter what kind you're using, but the key is keeping your eyes safe. There's a lot of small whippy branches on this particular tree, and as I'm taking my cuts, I don't want to have to think about not hitting my eye. We've had it happen before, and trust me, that's about as important as they get when it comes to your senses, so watch those eyes. As far as the tools we're going to be using, the first thing is going to be my Corona pruners. I love these. They're a bypass pruner, and bypass simply means you have the anvil here and the cutting blade here. The cutting blade bypasses the anvil and gives you a nice clean cut, which is what you want, especially on your fruit trees. For my larger branches, I'm going to be using these loppers here. We've had very good success with these from Fiskars, and this one is also a bypass lopper. So again, the blade bypasses that anvil there to give you a nice clean cut. Last but not least, for any larger branches, I have a folding saw here. This one is the Corona RS 7265 saw. I've used this for a few years now. It's a fantastic saw, nice and durable. We've made a lot of large cuts with it. I also like the fact that it does fold, so I'm able to keep this in my back pocket as I'm working on pruning all of our trees. Okay, that being said, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this tree and start deciding on pruning cuts today. All right, so I think the biggest thing obviously is just, we know anything that's down, right? So those are gonna come out for sure, right? I don't think we need to worry about scaffolding too much, but I think just looking at this, because I wanna be able to get underneath it easy, I think all the low stuff definitely needs to go. I'm thinking this one goes completely, and this one goes completely. So we had a chance to kind of look at the tree. Biggest issues when it comes to your weeping trees is anything that's pointing down or touching the ground is definitely going to need to come out. But I have some larger cuts that I actually want to make. My goal is to probably have the tree basically break here and umbrella from up here because it's just above my head. I'm just under 6 feet tall. And so I figured pretty much anybody wanting to come in would be able to come into here. But I do have some branching back here that I'm going to go ahead and take off first so I can get a better shot of what I'm dealing with. because we may wind up keeping a couple of these branches. You saw me holding on to the branch and supporting it. That's very important as you're making that cut. If you don't support the branch when it gets towards the end of the cut, you'll have a tendency for it to fall over and potentially start peeling away the bark. You don't want to do that so you're not dealing with any type of infection. Second thing is, hopefully you'll be able to make it out on camera. Every branch, especially when it comes off of what is the establishing trunk, I want to have a nice clean trunk when it's all said and done. So what I do when I make these cuts is pay attention to the collar. You have the collar of the branch here. That's where it starts to taper into the branch itself. And then I have about 1/4 of an inch into the branch. This will allow for some dieback, so this will die back towards the trunk, and as the trunk grows in, it should finish nice and flush for me. So I do pay attention to that. One of the things we always look for when it comes to branching is we want to make sure we're taking care of any crossing branches. Also, I have 2 branches here that are almost perfectly in line. So I'm going to pull this back slightly and lose this one. And then of course, any branches that I had inside, I'm going to nix those. I have this one here that's about to cross. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, take some additional crossing branches out of here, but I want to make sure that I'm encouraging this tree to grow up. I want it to basically grow probably another 2 to 3 feet high and then weep down from there. So any of the branching where I have it already facing down, I'm going to nix that at a branch that's facing up. So we've taken a lot of material off of this tree. I think I should probably clarify, this tree, as you can see, has grown very, very aggressively. With that aggressive growth, we can be a little bit more aggressive with our pruning cuts, and we're trying to establish the structure of the tree. So being a little more aggressive is really necessary at this point because we don't plan on allowing it to fruit yet. We do have some additional branching that we're leaving on this side of the tree. We do have some scaffold branching that are evenly spaced back here. However, a lot of the weight of this tree is still on this side. We need to balance it out on this side, so we've elected to keep this branch this year. That will probably come back, at least hopefully, be able to remove next year. However, I think already this is starting to take shape because I can already get underneath this tree. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. You know, we cover a lot of things here on the channel. Fruit trees is definitely one of our passions, but would love to have you as a subscriber and share the content. If you know anybody that's into this kind of thing, it definitely helps us out here when you share it. Any questions or comments, those go in the comments section down below. And our Amazon shop, that is a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with a link down below, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you.